everyone, and welcome once again to Real Shame. It's a show where we talk about movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots, basically movies we haven't seen that we're fixing for you today. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
This bright, shining guy next to me is Andy. Earlier in the week, we talked about a movie that was written by Preston Sturges, and Andy decided to pair it with another movie that's both written and directed by Preston Sturges. And to tell you all about that, I'm going to pass it over to him, Andy.
Trudy Cockenlocker lives in Morgan's Creek along with her platonic friend Norval Jones. When Trudy goes out dancing with the soldiers who are about to ship off one night and winds up married and pregnant, it's up to her and Norval, who happens to be in love with her, to try and straighten out what will happen to her in The Miracle of Morgan's Creek.
Hello, Mr. Governor?
Yeah? The editor of what? Bugle, yeah? What town's that again? Morgan's Creek. Is that in my state? Never heard of it.
You never heard of it, huh? Well, by tomorrow morning, Morgan's Creek will be the most famous town in America.
The Wilds!
This is the last free phone in the town. Every room has been reserved for 15 miles around.
Tidy!
100 newspaper men are here already, and 500 more expected in the morning.
1,000!
There's a shortage of food, telephones,
Milk!
telegraph wires,
Liquor!
transportation,
Tents!
policemen, and everything else. We need a lot of help. We're going to tear this town up with the roots.
And that's only the half
We
of it.
need state police, food, water, beds, blankets.
Plumbing!
Wait a minute. Take it easy, will you? What happened down there? You got a flood, or did you strike oil or something?
Did we strike oil or something?
Tell him.
No, Mr. Governor, we did not strike oil.
Anybody can
We
strike
have
oil.
not got a flood.
Anybody can have a
What
flood.
we've got, Mr. Governor, is...
You got what?
Yes, Mr.
Shut up. Not you. Now, he's sure your facts. This is terribly important. I wish I could be down there myself. This is a matter of state policy, state pride.
So The Miracle of Morgan's Creek came out in February of 1944, but it was actually shot in 1942 and 1943. Just took a minute to get to the screen.
It did.
In 1944. It's written and directed by Preston Sturges. He wrote and directed movies like The Lady Eve, Sullivan's Travels, The Palm Beach Story, and the Lega sequel, maybe the first Lega sequel, The Sin of Harold Diddlebach, which is the sequel to Harold Lloyd's The Freshman, and also stars Harold Lloyd. I believe it picks up right when The Freshman ends, although then it jumps ahead into the future since Harold Lloyd was 22 years older than he was.
Psycho 2 action going on.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ooh.
Miracle of Morgan's Creek stars Betty Hutton as Trudy Cockenlocker. Eddie Bracken stars as Norval Jones. William Demarest stars as Constable Cockenlocker. He's Trudy's father, demanding and cranky father.
Yes, it is.
Diana Lynn plays Trudy's sister, or Emmy Cockenlocker. Brian Donlevy plays Governor McGinty, and Amir Tamaroff plays the boss. I mentioned Brian Donlevy and Amir Tamaroff as Governor McGinty and the boss because they're actually playing the same characters that they played in another Preston Sturges film called The Great McGinty.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a callback to that film. This is a movie that I have seen one time before. And I know I mentioned TCM, Turner Classic Movies, when I talked about Remember the Night. I saw The Miracle of Morgan's Creek on TCM back in the day, probably back in the early 2000s. Because I remember Robert Osborne, who was one of the hosts of TCM, actually had there was a special where he sat down and talked with Betty Hutton about her career. And I think maybe they showed The Miracle of Morgan's Creek or something like that. But I found that interesting, and I watched all that stuff back in the day. But I've not seen it since then, but I did remember it. And so I threw it on the list to pair with Remember the Night because it has at least a Christmas scene in it, and it's directed and written by Preston Sturges. So I thought I'd throw it on there, but it's a movie that you've never seen before.
That's right.
Ever heard of The Miracle of Morgan's Creek?
I did not. I was curious what it was.
All right. Well, Norval, the guy that plays Norval Jones, Eddie Bracken. I know you mentioned Christmas Vacation when we were talking about a Christmas story, Christmas.
Yep.
Eddie Bracken plays, I think, the owner of Wally World in Vacation.
Okay.
Back in 1983. So he was still acting then. But yeah, this is a very young Eddie Bracken. And then William Demarest, who plays Constable Cockenlocker, he is on My Three Sons, which is the TV show that Fred McMurray was on.
Gotcha.
So
And
another little connection there.
Eddie Bracken is like the toy store owner in like Home Alone or something like that.
He is. I believe that's correct.
Kirby
Yes.
nailed that from
Home Alone 2, right?
Yeah,
He
from
gives them the little doves or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Kirby nailed that from like 1,000 feet away.
Yep, that's correct. I
Crazy.
had completely forgotten about that. So yes, there's another little Christmas tie-in. Very good, very good. All right, so you didn't know anything about Miracle on Morgan's
Did
Creek.
not.
So went into it blind. What did you? Did it end up being miraculous for you, or were you just like?
Yeah, I'm torn on this movie, and I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately. I find Trudy, like nails on chalkboard, the whole movie. Like she
Really?
Yeah, just how hysterical she is and everything like that, and how she can't handle it. Like anytime I feel like I'm using like a whole lot. Anytime I'm watching movies and they talk about, especially older movies or movies that take place older, and they talk about women being hysterical and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
and like you have the hysteria. Trudy is how I imagine that they're imagining those women to be, right?
Huh.
She just seems so inept and so unable to control what's going on, and just overwhelmed and whiny, and just like screeching, and it really, she really did a number on me while watching this movie. Like I found her like almost unwatchable, kind of like I was having with even worse than Coming Up Baby. Honestly.
With Katharine Hepburn
Yeah.
and Bringing Up Baby. Okay.
I'm torn with this movie because I didn't find watching the movie very enjoyable, but
It doesn't sound like you're torn.
but afterwards, thinking about it, I find it super subversive, and I like that about the movie.
Yeah.
So, like you said, and kind of, well, and you kind of hinted at it in the description of the show, in the description of the movie, and we're gonna go in and spoil the movie because that's what we do for the titular movie that we talk about. I think she basically gets raped in this movie. Like she drank too much. She doesn't remember what went on, and it's either because she hit her head on the disco ball or the chandelier, or because she had so much to drink. So there's probably no way she could have gave consent to marry and to have sex and to end up getting pregnant. And I find it interesting that this movie kind of takes a look at that stuff. And I feel like it's kind of poking and prodding at something like that I feel like most people would find taboo and wouldn't really talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they have, these, because usually I feel like definitely in this era, you look at soldiers and you want to look at them in a good light, and that they're going out and fighting for the good, and, all that kind of stuff, and you can do no wrong. But now in a 2022 lens, you realize that everyone's flawed, and usually people that are in power of authority or that seek out powers and authorities and stuff like that, like military and police forces, are usually not the right people in that kind of thing. So you can read into it that these guys have really kind of taken advantage of her and stuff like that. So I found that kind of interesting. And again, I'm probably bringing a whole lot to the movie with that, but I found that kind of interesting, and that, the miracle, and that they're trying to come up with a good story. And honestly, like at the end, they're really just trying to save face for the military and what happened for this, because they put, Norval in a military uniform, something that he always wanted. And they, basically made it look like he was, because she had these kids, she had 6 kids, and they wanted to tell a good, nice, happy story around it, even though the circumstances that led up to it weren't necessarily that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to put a pretty spin on it. And I'm like, how often in news media and stuff like that do we see people trying to do the same thing, trying to make things look positive and better than they actually are? So
Yeah.
I find it kind of subversive in that aspect. And again, I could be alone in reading that, and I find it really interesting for its time. But so that kind of warmed me up to the movie a little bit, because I'm bringing all that to it. But with the movie itself, I just felt Trudy was just really just hard to watch, hard to be around. And I felt so bad for Norval. He's just like he's a mat that she's just dragging and running over, and he's like a little puppy dog. She just keeps on kicking, and he keeps crawling back for more and more and more. And it's just like, I guess that's his character, but it's like, have a backbone or something, dude. Like, she's taking advantage of you each time. And, she at least feels sorry for her, but her sisters psychopath. She's like, she has no feeling, no remorse whatsoever. She's like, this is the way to get out of the situation. Use this person. Who cares if you're going to get him in trouble and all that kind of stuff, and move on and stuff like that. So so for me, I'm just, it's just weird. And it just takes, like, it just goes at a pace. Like, the intro, like, those guys busting in, telling the mayor what's going on and what's the story. And then the movie just kind of takes off from there and all that kind of stuff. And, it just goes bonkers. And like, you have this like story. Okay. How's she going to find out, who's going to be her father? How's she going to get married? Or who's going to be the father of the kids? How's she going to get married? All this stuff. And then at the end, you have this like other bonkers things to get at to it, where she's not just having one kid, she's having 6 kids and all that kind of stuff.
It's such important news. They're getting it all of the Mussolini and Hitler are getting the news.
Yeah, and you have clips like Mussolini and Hitler and newspaper articles and all that kind of stuff. It's just like completely like out there and just so like random. It feels so, it's so out there. Like, it's just, where do you go? Like, how do you get from this to that, and all that kind of stuff? And it reminds me of all those like memes people would make with like, I think it was like Downfall, the movie, where they'd re-subtitle Hitler getting upset about like the Nintendo GameCube or them canceling stuff like that. So seeing that is like made me think of that. And all that kind of stuff.
I think I thought of that too.
So for me, the movie is just, it's so strange to me because it's just wacky and weird. And like I said, I kind of got the same wackiness and weirdness from Remember the Night and stuff like that. So maybe that is just Preston Sturges' magic he drops in there. But yeah, this movie just seems just so weird to me and all that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of off-putting. But then again, thinking about how subversive it is made me like it. So that's why I'm torn. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
I've had a weird reaction to this movie for sure, and probably a singular reaction to this movie. I'll say. So that's kind of where I am with this A Miracle on Morgan Creek. You said you've seen it on TCM before.
Yeah,
so
I saw it once before.
Do you remember liking it when you watched it in the past, or?
Yeah, I remember it being funnier. Honestly, I didn't think it was as funny this time. I don't agree at all. With as far as the Trudy character, I don't find her annoying at all. I find Eddie Bracken's character Norval annoying. Yeah, super annoying.
Does he remind you of Eddie Deason?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. Not as bad as Eddie Deason though. He's a special circle of hell is reserved for Eddie Deason. No, but Eddie Bracken's character, to me, he was like nails on a chalkboard. With his the spot, just his like bumbling kind of, so terrible. Just he drove me crazy.
Well, and the spots kind of disappeared because when she was telling the first news, he was saying it a lot, and then it just seemed like it disappeared after him saying that.
Yeah. But to me, what puts this movie a cut above is exactly what you said. I like the fact that it's like subversive because it is. I mean, this movie came out in 1944 again, but as I mentioned, it was filmed in 1942 and 1943. Not that really matters, but all during that time, there was a lot of back and forth with the Hayes office because the Hayes office was like, you want to make a movie about a single girl who's now found herself pregnant. And what are you crazy? And I mean, it's unheard of. You think back to the 1940s and the 1950s, you're watching Dick Van Dyke or whatever, they're sleeping in separate beds. You can't even talk. You have to call sex, you have to call it whoopee. We're going to make whoopee, right? It's like they
light a cigarette to insinuate that you had sex. And all that
right. They had to pretend that babies came from storks. Like we can. Let's not talk about sex. Let's not talk about sexual relations. Let's talk about any of that stuff. So to find a movie where this girl kind of, as you said, goes off with these soldiers, gets drunk, and maybe she was taken advantage of, and then winds up being married, or she thinks anyway. She has the ring. And she's pregnant now. She's with child, and she's all by herself, and she has no idea who the father is.
Did she know?
It's just weird.
Yeah, and I felt like she figured out she was pregnant really, really quick. It seemed like the next day she realized she was pregnant.
I don't think it's the next day. They don't say the passage of time, but I didn't think it was that soon.
It felt very soon.
I felt like it was like a month later.
I'm not sure. I guess she would know a month later. It just felt very.
I don't feel like it was like right away. But so I like that. I think that puts this movie kind of in a class of its own, just because it's not something that you would have seen necessarily back in 1944. And I applaud Preston Sturges for being able to bring it to the screen. He was able to, to get it out there. So I think that's cool. But I like the Betty Hutton character just fine. I really love William Demarest as their father. He just has some funny lines. I like his little pratfalls. He's like kicks at him and he like falls down and stuff like that. And I like the other daughter, the Diana Lynn character, Emmy Cockenlocker, as well. As you said, she is a little ruthless.
She's
as
very
far as
ruthless.
just like,
I like her a lot too.
Yeah. Well, I like, she has a funny line. Again, I don't think the movie's as funny as I thought it was the first time I saw it, but I like the line where Trudy is trying to tell her what his name was, and she's like, it was like Radsky Wadsky or Zitsky Witsky or something like that, and Emmy goes, well, with a name like that, you ought to forget him. She's just like, screw that dude or whatever. But yeah, I think it's funny, but overall. Again, I think what elevates it is the fact that it's just shocking, kind of, and it's not something that you would have seen. I can forgive Eddie Bracken's character Norval being annoying because I like the other characters, and it's an interesting kind of wacky story. As it all kind of pans out. So I would say overall, I definitely still like it. I don't know that I like it maybe as much as I did back when I originally saw it. Yeah. But I still think it's definitely worth seeing. And again, this is another movie that I don't think it gets near the acclaim as some of Preston Sturges' other movies like Lady Eve and Sullivan's Travels. And I'm not saying that it should, but if you're a fan of any of those films and you want to check another Preston Sturges movie out, I think The Miracle of Morgan's Creek, you could do a lot worse, honestly. That's right.
I like that they used the term "cool as ice."
Cool as it did they? I didn't.
They did,
that.
Yeah, they did. I was like,
and you like Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice.
Now I gotta go listen to him.
There you go. Now you know my whole week.
I know. I like that William Demarest calls the daughter Emmy Zipper Puss.
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you want, Zipper Puss?" I was like, "I'm gonna have to work that into my vocabulary."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a term that people need to bring back.
Put a sock in it, Zipper Puss. But yeah, no, it's a fun movie. I'm glad that you like the subversiveness of it, even if that's the only thing that kind of makes you makes the movie memorable. I think it did its job probably.
Yeah. So, what are some other trivia about this movie?
So it's apparently fairly loosely, is from what I understand, remade as Rockabye Baby with Jerry Lewis. I have not seen that version. I'll have to check it out one of these days. It only got one Oscar nomination. It was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, but it lost to the movie Wilson, which is about the president, Woodrow Wilson.
Volleyball.
Nope, not about the volleyball. But Preston Sturges, he had already won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for The Great McGinty, which is where the character of Governor McGinty and the boss come from. So he already had him one of them Oscar statuettes. So
that's right.
It was okay that he lost to Wilson. I guess. I don't know. I've never seen Wilson, so I can't speak to the quality of that film. This movie, The Miracle of Morgan's Creek, is number 54 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Laughs list. And incidentally, Preston Sturges has 4 movies on that list total. Oh. I think the other 3 movies are The Lady Eve, Sullivan's Travels, and The Palm Beach Story.
I keep on thinking of The Lady Eve as the movie about the girl that has multiple personality disorder. But that's probably all about Eve?
No, she doesn't have multiple personalities in that. I'm not sure what movie you're thinking of.
Okay. Because I was like, is that a comedy?
Oh, you might be thinking of The Thousand Faces of Eve.
Maybe that's what it is?
Maybe.
Okay.
I have not seen that one, so
I don't think this movie is very funny.
Yeah.
But
Miracle of Morgan's Creek?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe that's my modern sensibilities.
Well, I mean, again, I don't think it's as funny as I thought it was back when I originally saw it. I mean, there was a few lines that I chuckled at and thought were kind of funny, but overall, it was just kind of,
yeah.
I don't know. This movie does not have a Blu-ray release. I feel like that's kind of been maybe not a theme, but I know when we did Liberty Heights, that has no Blu-ray release. Yeah. Neither does Young Sherlock Holmes, but again, Young Sherlock Holmes is about to in January. But this movie is only available on DVD. It's 86% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. 82, but I think it has like 6 reviews. 82% audience. Leonard Maltin gives it 4 stars.
Wow.
Gave 4 stars to A Christmas Story. Gave 4 stars to this. What's going on, Leonard?
Yeah, we're on a
you
Leonard
doing, bro?
run right now.
We are.
We're
I know.
looking at his 4-star movies and watching them.
I'll have to pick some movies for January that are 4-star. Leonard Maltin.
We need to get
And I
Leonard-
didn't find any kind of Roger Ebert print review or anything like that for it. So
We
sorry.
need to get Leonard Maltin on the show.
Man, I would love to meet Leonard Maltin. I was such a fan of the Leonard Maltin video and movie guide, or movie and video. Was it video and movie guide or movie and video guide? Apparently, I'm not a big enough fan to know the title, but it was video and movie guide. I think I loved those growing up. I thought those were the coolest thing. Which I mean, that's the reason why we always talk about his reviews on the shows because he was influential growing up.
Well, I know, I think Doug Loves Movies, which I don't even know if they made that they make that podcast anymore. They brought him on, I believe, a few times because
that's cool.
They would play the Leonard Maltin game, which was so awesome. Which was, they read you a portion of the Leonard Maltin review. They give you his rating, and then you have to name what movie in the year, and you have to name what movie it is.
I bet I'd be good at that.
And then so he had Edgar Wright on the show, Doug Loves Movies, and Edgar Wright, movie lover, movie aficionado.
Yeah, he and I would get along very well.
He goes, "Can I start?" Oh, and then also they would name you. You can choose how many It's like Name the Tune, so you can choose how many actors from the bottom of the list to read to be able to so you'd be like, I can name it in like one actor, and then he'd read you the least recognizable actor, right? So they'd read it from least to most, and you have to try to name the movie, right? So for like like some movie, it'd be like some background actor or background character or whatever from the Leonard Maltin book. But so that was the format. But Edgar Wright was so good at it that he goes, "Can I name the cast in order, like in the order as they are credited and stuff like that?" And so Doug's like, "Yeah, sure." And so Edgar Wright would be like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this +3 or whatever," and then he would name the movie and then name the 3 actors that are as their build and all that kind of stuff, and just would go on from there. It was. I mean, this is crazy to say this, but it was electrifying when that first happened. I was listening to it in my car, and my mind was literally being blown that Edgar Wright was doing this, and I was so excited. And I will load in my car, and other people are just in their own world driving, and I'm just like, is anyone understanding how cool this is? I don't know. So obviously, it had a big impact on me. Hopefully, you guys can get a little bit of idea on how important that was. But yeah, would love Leonard Maltin.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That sounds cool though. Yeah. I'll
have to find a clip for you and play that for you because it was magical for me. Yeah. So again, I promised you guys tangents. That's what you get for watching.
You wanted tangents? You got tangents.
All right. So we talked about The Miracle in Morgan's Creek. It is Wednesday. On Wednesday, we answer viewer questions, but for the end of the year, we like to do a little retrospective.
Last episode of the year.
Yeah, we like to do a little retrospective. So last week we talked about our favorite movies that we watched in 2022, the year that, we're filming this and all this kind of stuff. But we omitted some key movies. And those movies we omitted are ones that we actually talked about on the show right here, right now. So this week we're going to talk about our favorite movies, either new to us or not, that we watched for the show. So these are real shame movies that we watched this year that we liked above all else.
Yes.
And there's probably a few that I missed. I was looking at your list. There's probably 1 or 2 on there that I would say that I probably should have added. 1 for sure, and all that kind of stuff. So, how do you want to kick this off?
Well, I have more. I picked 5 movies that I had seen before, but it was really nice to revisit them, and I picked 5 movies I'd never seen before that I really enjoyed.
So do you want to do 1 from each?
I will do 1 from each, yes.
And then, okay, so since I have 6, I'll go first, and then we'll pass it off back and forth. So this is the movie that I don't see on your list, but I'm sure it should make your list. Maybe it's just in that 6th spot, and it's Inside. We watched for Halloween. Horror. It's a French film. And boy, is this film is it Inside? Was the insane one, right? Where the lady wants
interior, interior,
right.
Inside.
I didn't want to get it confused with the one that we watched after Martyrs, which was not great.
Not Martyrs.
Inside, completely bonkers, everything you want in that kind of movie and more. Gory, crazy, insane, crazy visuals, all that kind of stuff. I am so glad we watched it for the show. It's crazy and it's awesome.
Yes, it was great, and just gory,
Yeah.
but gory in all its glory. I mean, it was amazing. The worst thing about it was the stupid CGI baby.
Yes.
Other than that, everything was
Yeah,
cool.
perfect. Other than
Just
that.
a great movie. So much fun. It is on my list. It's on the bottom.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's good. Yeah. So that made my list of movies that not watched before that I'm happy that we watched for the show. And then, so I'll pick a movie from the list of movies that I have seen before. We did this way back in January of this year. So I'd seen it before, but had completely forgotten about it, but was so charmed by seeing it this time around. I don't think you liked it very much, but it's Moonstruck with Cher and Olympia Dukakis and Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage is one-handed pizza maker.
Yeah, and
Bread maker.
Danny Aiello and John Mahoney and all those people. So yeah, I really enjoyed Moonstruck. I thought it was very, very charming. If I have time, I might watch it again here pretty soon.
It doesn't take place in January. That's why we watched it in January.
I think it takes place actually around Christmas time.
Okay.
But I paired it with the January Man.
Oh yeah.
The terrible January Man.
Yeah.
We'll save that for our worst list.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Another movie, and I'm double checking your list that's not on there. I don't think it was because you weren't a big fan of it. That I really enjoyed was a vampire flick that we watched.
Yeah, I was not a fan.
Because we watched 3 vampire movies in that one week. We watched Dracula, we watched Nosferatu, and we watched this one. It's written and directed by Catherine Bigelow, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And that was Near Dark. We have a lot of actors that you would see in James Cameron movies and stuff like that. And it also has Lance Hendrickson in it, who was also in Alien. Aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
He was an alien, so he was in a Jim Cameron movie and all that kind of stuff. I think the movie was messy, but I felt like that was to the movie's benefit. So I really enjoyed the grittiness and messiness of it, and it was a great find for me, and one movie that I really enjoyed watching.
Very cool. I'll jump to a movie that it was new to me, and this is a recent movie. We just did it, last week. It's Liberty Heights.
Oh yeah,
Barry
That's
Levinson's.
awesome.
Yeah, Barry Levinson's Liberty Heights. I really, really enjoyed that movie. I did think it was better than Diner. If you haven't seen those episodes, check them out. Hopefully, because we discussed those films a little more at length. But spoiler if you haven't, I liked Liberty Heights better than Diner. But yeah, it was fun, and it needs a Blu-ray release.
Yep, Liberty Heights
right away.
barely did not make it on my list.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard. It's kind of hard to pick and choose. There were definitely some movies. I see some movies on your list that I was like, oh, I probably should have put that on mine.
And what was one that you have seen that you would?
One that I had seen before that I was happy that we saw again, even though it's 3 hours long. It's Beloved with Oprah Winfrey and Danny Glover, directed by Jonathan Demme. I liked it. Again, it's so weird and Tandy Wade Newton, I can't forget her since she's basically the star outside of Oprah Winfrey. It's so weird, but it's so fascinating to me. I'm all about Beloved. I'm into it.
Well, we got some really good viewers' comments. I remember on Beloved. And stuff
I was happy to see that some people watched it.
Yeah, there's some good discourse on that. So I wasn't a fan of the movie, but I enjoyed the discourse on it for sure. All right. The next movie that I want to talk about, and you kind of have the movie we paired with it on your list.
Yep.
To give a little foreshadowing, was a David O. Russell movie. I'm not the biggest fan of David O. Russell of his movies, but there was one that for some reason struck a chord with me that I really enjoyed, and it was new to me, and it was Joy. I found the story and the setting and stuff just really fascinating. And for some reason, I don't know, not to say for some reason, but that movie just really worked for me. So I really enjoyed, what's her name? Jennifer
Lawrence.
Yeah, J-Law's turn and Joy, and thought it was a real good movie. It worked for me. So yeah, Joy.
Yeah, I wasn't as high on Joy, but I definitely was high on the movie that you paired with it, and that was also Jennifer Lawrence, also David O. Russell, and Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro, etc., and even Chris Tucker.
Yep.
It was nice to see Chris Tucker. It was Silver Linings Playbook. I still Don't buy the ending at all. But other than that, I thought the movie was really solid, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it because I wasn't sure of it going into it, but I liked it a lot. Aside from that, pick a movie from movies that we had or that I had seen before, and I'll wait because you're kind of going up. So,
Yep.
The Last Seduction was a movie that we paired with Double Indemnity, and I remember I had seen that way back in the day in 1994 or whatever, and thought meh back then, but this time I was all into it.
Yeah.
Again, I think it helped watching it late at night. It really was like watching a late night cable movie, but I really, really enjoyed it. Linda Fiorentino was great. Just a really cool little neo-noir movie that I enjoyed.
I don't remember how I feel about Last Seduction. I don't remember if I was positive or negative on it. I feel like I was positive on it.
Yeah, you weren't as crazy about it as I was, but I think you were okay with it.
You viewers don't know this, but this guy has picked some of my favorite documentaries I have ever seen in my life.
Yes. I'm happy about that.
Hands on a Hard Body is amazing. What was some of the Heavy Metal Parking Lot, even though it was a short, was awesome. I feel like there was another one that we watched that I was really over the moon about. It wasn't Winnebago Man. It was another one of those that we watched for the same kind of event. Not the Fantastic Four one. I don't know. I can't think. So when he recommends a documentary or when he picks a documentary, I know I'm in for something that I'm going to love. And unfortunately, one of the actors in this movie, or one of the people in this movie, has passed away this year.
Yeah.
And he was actually the standout for the show. That was really awesome. And the movie is American Movie. This movie was really, really awesome, really, really surprising, really, really heartening, and all that kind of stuff. And just a really well-made documentary. It was one of those ones I think I talked about where I saw the movie box art and it just looked really plain and boring and all that kind of stuff. But in digging in and learning about the lives of these guys, it was very cool and very interesting, and a documentary that I am glad that I've watched. And I believe at the time it only had a DVD release, and then soon after it got a Blu-ray.
It's still, I don't think the Blu-ray's come out yet, but yes, one has been announced.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time, I think it just had a DVD when we did it on the show. Yeah.
So great movie. Highly recommend it. Check out the episode. But yeah, American Movie was awesome. This guy has great documentary picking powers.
Yay. Well, I also put American Movie on my list of movies. Of course, I had seen it before, so it comes off of my list of movies that I had seen. But it's another one of those movies that I saw it back in '99 or whenever it came out and was kind of underwhelmed. I think it was just super, super hyped up to me. So I'm glad that we saw it again because I enjoyed it so much more this time around. I also think the passage of time just has helped. And I'm older and hopefully wiser. But I think we said this whenever we talked about it on the show. We've, at one time in our lives, wanted to make films. We've known other people that wanted to make films. So watching a movie like this is very relatable. And seeing these guys and what they struggle to go with and try and juggle family life and raising kids and having enough money and paying bills and doing all those things, but still trying to follow this passion that this guy has to make, Coven. So yeah, it's very cool. And I'm glad we watched it again. It's cool.
The other one was the Wonderful Wild Whites.
Oh yeah, the Wild and Wonderful Whites. Yeah,
it was another one.
I love that one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. And then a movie from movies that I had not seen. Pick one of those. Was the movie that we paired? What did we pair? Oh, we paired it with Time After Time.
Oh yeah,
this was a lot better than Time After Time. I enjoyed it with Alan Arkin. 7% Solution, another Sherlock Holmes film.
Did you liked it more than Young Sherlock Holmes for sure?
I do, yeah, because I don't really like Young Sherlock Holmes. Time After Time and Young Sherlock Holmes were both kind of but out of all the Sherlock Holmes movies we did, I like 7% Solution the best.
Yeah,
and I'd never seen it before, so it was very cool.
I think I remember Kirby liking that one too. I wasn't as favorable in that one, but you can't go wrong.
Hey, can't win them all.
Can't win them all. All right. The other movie, super surprised to me. I feel like it is a not talked about, not well known enough movie. And I think we've seen some comments to the same on the YouTube video and all that kind of stuff. It is a movie that is directed by it's written by Bob Gale, correct? And it's directed by
Zemeckis.
Yeah, Bob Zemeckis, right? and it's a movie about. We kind of mentioned it in our diner and our Liberty Hot, or definitely our diner review, and a movie about a bunch of people hanging out trying to get to one thing that night, or try to get to a single thing, and it takes place over a very short period, maybe a day or two, and what the people want to do is get to a Beatles concert, and the name of the movie is I Want to Hold Your Hand. That movie was super surprising. I was over the moon about it. I purchased the movie after
Criterion Blu-ray.
Purchased Criterion Blu-ray after we watched it and reviewed it because I liked it that much. I will sing its praises. Super surprising, super enjoyable. Even though it has Eddie Deason in it, super great movie. I Want to Hold Your Hand. It was crazy. It's awesome. I'm glad we watched it.
I'm glad you liked it as much as you did. It also makes my list of movies that I had seen before, and I remember when we did the show, I must have been insane the first time I saw it because I was like, or in a bad mood or something when I first watched it because I didn't really think that much of it. But watching it for the show, I was in the right frame of mind, and it's a fantastic comedy. I feel the same way you do. I really love it. I think it's great. I think more people need to see it. It's an awesome film. Awesome Robert Zemeckis movie.
So I have one left, and I think you have one left that you haven't seen. So I'll do my last one, and then you can do yours.
Yeah, go for it.
So the last movie that I wanted to call out was, I'm a big fan of this writer-director. This is a movie that he wrote and didn't direct. It was Richard Curtis. And we've talked about, about time on the show. I've talked about how I watch Love Actually every year around this time. It's time to watch it again and all that kind of stuff. And I was super surprised by how well, like, this movie, again, I've heard about this movie for years and never really took a gamble on it and all that kind of stuff. And I was super pleasantly surprised. And that movie is Four Weddings and a Funeral. I was shocked by how much I kind of enjoyed this telling of people meeting and re-meeting at different weddings throughout their lives and stuff like that, and was really found it enjoyable. So for me, Four Weddings and Funerals is one of the movies that I really enjoyed watching for the show this year.
Yeah, and I didn't put that on my list, although I also liked that movie as well. Even if I did, I liked Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell the least out of all the characters in that film. But I thought the movie was really solid overall. It just didn't quite make my list of movies that I had not seen before. But one movie that did make it, and again, mine, I don't know yours were. I was going to say neither one of our lists are in any kind of order. We're just kind of randomly put them down and are randomly talking about them. But the final film that I have on my list of movies that I had not seen before, that I watched for the first time for real shame, was one of the animation or anime films that we did. We did Belle, which I wasn't that crazy about, but the movie that we paired with it, or you paired with it, Summer Wars. I don't remember the director's name.
I think.
But Summer Wars, I thought was cool. And again, I like that whole kind of familial aspect. They're all kind of gathering at this house for the weekend or whatever it is. I don't remember what the circumstances are. For Grandma's birthday or something, right? It's like her 90th birthday or something. I don't know. But just all the crazy stuff that goes on, the computers, and they've got to stop this catastrophic thing from happening, and how just all the little characters, the kids are running around, and everybody's just having a crazy old time at the old homestead there. But yeah, I thought Summer Wars was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad. There's been a few animes that we've watched for the show that have made your list. Sort of Stranger is one.
Oh yeah,
Summer Wars and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see that. We're kind of expanding our wings a little bit and kind of taking in some of these movies that we haven't even heard of, or maybe that we wouldn't normally watch and are enjoying them.
That's what the show's all about, broadening our movie horizons.
That's correct.
And definitely animation is a weak suit of mine. Not a strong suit.
Me too. All right. Well, that's our favorite movies that we watched for the show. Guess what? It's your turn now. If you're watching us on YouTube, comment down below. What are some of the favorite movies you've watched because of this show, or that you've watched that we reviewed on the show? Not necessarily everyone's going to watch what we do every week, but let us know what those are. I'd be curious to see what those are and all that kind of stuff. It'd be good to have a discussion about that. Or if you're listening to us on your podcatcher of choice, shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com, and all that kind of stuff. Have a great and happy new year and a safe new year. And we'll see you after the new year with some more movies, and probably movies from this guy's list of shame. So we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.